In this video, we're continuing our budget series. In our last video, we learned how to prepare a direct materials purchases budget. In this video, we're going to prepare a direct labor budget. And this, in my mind, is the easiest of the budgets. So to do it, you need to have a production budget. You need to know how many units you're planning to make, and we've learned how to prepare a production budget. And once you know how many units you're planning to make, and you know roughly how many hours it takes to make a unit, whether it's a couple of hours, whether it's half an hour, whatever the amount of time, you can prepare a direct labor budget. And it's really easy, right? The number of units times the hours it takes times your employee's wage rate, and you pretty much get there. Now it gets more complicated with things like overtime or union contracts calling for a minimum amount of hours, as is the case in this problem. But even with those complications, I think this is as easy as a budget can get. Let's read through it. I'm continuing my theme of UFC referees in these last two. This is Big John McCarthy. McCarthy Companies. Production requirements are as follows. Units to be produced, 28,000, 20,000, 26,000. Each unit requires 1.5 hours to produce, and workers are paid $10 an hour. The company has permanent employees who are guaranteed to be paid for 35,000 of work each month. I assume maybe they had a union that negotiates at the minimum hours we're willing to provide is 35,000. You can't pay us for less than that, and there's some sort of contract. If production requires less than 35,000 hours, they're going to be paid for 35,000 hours anyway. Any amount of work over 35,000 hours will be paid at 1.5 times their normally hourly rate. These guys get overtime. So if we go over 35, we got to pay extra. Under 35, we got to pay for 35,000 anyway. So kind of complicated, but not really. So the name of the company, McCarthy Company. The name of the financial statement, this is a direct labor budget. And the date, and this is for the quarter ended March 31st. This is for the first quarter of 2013. And again, when I look at these, I'm looking at them 1 month at a time. January, February, March, and quarter one. So let's try to piece this one together. So I guess my starting point is going to be the hours. How many direct labor hours I'm going to have. For January, for February, and for March. In January, I'm going to make 28,000 units. Takes an hour and a half per unit. 28,000 times an hour and a half a unit is 42,000. 20,000 times 1.5 is 30,000 hours. Again, 28,000 hours, it takes an hour and a half per unit. 20,000 hours takes an hour and a half per unit, and 26,000 times 1.5 is 39,000. So those are my planned hours, and that's probably a good place to start. Let's fill that in. Budgeted direct labor hours. And what did I have? I had 42, 30, and 39. Now let's multiply that. Well, actually, let's figure out how many of those hours are at regular time. So our regular time is 35,000 hours. So our regular time is 35,000, 35,000, and 35,000. So I'm going to pay out regular time. Even in this month of February, they only work 30. The union contract says I got to pay out 35. So if I'm doing this budget, I'm making this plan, I own this company, I'm thinking, what should I do? I'm thinking, I got 5,000 extra hours. I've got to get my employees doing something. So it's useful for planning that reason. So regular time is 35,000. I'm going to have to pay 35,000 no matter what. Let's look at overtime. In terms of overtime, in January, I'm going to be paying out 7,000 hours. In February, no overtime. And in March, 4,000 hours worth of overtime. Well, let's try to compute how much this is going to cost me now. This is all in hours, right? Hours. Let's figure out what it's going to cost me in terms of dollars. regular time gets paid out at $10 per hour. So I'm just going to state this in dollars, and again, it's $10 per hour. So 35,000 times 10 means my regular time is going to cost me 350 grand per month. 350, 350. Even in February, where they only work 30, I got to pay them the full month's wages, unfortunately. Now, in terms of overtime, I pay 7,000 hours, and my overtime rate, it said, was 1.5 times the regular rate. Well, they make $10 an hour. Their overtime wage then is $15 per hour. So 7,000 times $15 an hour gives us an amount of 105. There's no overtime in February. My March overtime, $4,015 an hour, is 60,000. So adding down the list, my totals here are 455, 350, and 410. And that's my total direct labor cost. Again, now I got to do my for the quarter column, but let's remind ourselves why this is useful. It's useful not only for planning when to bring in people. Maybe I can bring in some extra temporary workers in January and avoid paying that overtime premium of 105 grand. I could pay less overtime and more just regular wages, save some money there. The other concern would be February, where I'm budgeting to go way under. Well, I'm paying people for 5,000 extra hours. Let's find work for them. And the final benefit is this is a cash budgeting tool, right? When we pay salaries, there's really not much lag between when it's earned and when it's paid. So these are basically cash outflows to my company. So I got to know in January I need 450 grand ready to pay the salaries, and it's good to keep track of. Anyway, let's total everything up. 42 plus 30 plus 39, 111. 35 times 3 is that 105? 7 and 4, 11. 350 times 3, what is that? 105. Oh wait, $1,050,000. Just clean that up. $1,050,000. 105 plus 60 is 165, and totaling the whole thing up, I get $1.215 million. So in the first quarter, I got to be ready to pony up $1.2 million for my workers' wages. A lot of systems, you won't have to worry about overtime. You might not have to worry about boosting it up to that regular time. When employees are done, you send them home. That makes the question even easier. This was a hard version of a direct labor budget. Most direct labor budgets are even easier than this. That's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next part.